The night was soft and deep, wrapped in the gentle hum of crickets and the slow whisper of the wind moving through the trees. A small fire crackled at the center of a quiet clearing, its orange glow dancing across the ground like restless spirits. Under the wide branches of an old mango tree, a grandmother sat on a woven mat. Her back was slightly bent with age, but her presence was strong, like a tree that had stood through many seasons. Around her, 4 children gathered close. They came every night, not because they were told to, but because her stories made the world feel bigger and somehow safer at the same time. "Grandmother," the youngest one said, tugging gently at her wrapper, "why does the moon sometimes disappear?" The old woman smiled, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Ah," she said slowly, adjusting her headscarf. "You have noticed that, have you?" The children nodded eagerly. She looked up at the sky. The moon was there that night, round, calm, and glowing gently, but her gaze lingered on it, as though she was remembering something far older than the moment. "What you see up there," she began, "is not just a moon. It is a story of pride, and a lesson the sky itself had to learn." The children leaned in closer. Even the wind seemed to quiet down. "Long ago," the grandmother said, her voice lowering into that special tone the children knew well, "the moon was not like it is now. The moon before, back then," she continued, "the moon was proud, not just a little proud, very proud every night. It rose into the sky with a brilliance so strong that the darkness itself seemed to step aside for it. It did not glow gently the way it does now. No, it shone boldly, commandingly, as if the entire night belonged to it alone. "Look at me," the moon would say, stretching its light across the sky. "I am the ruler of the night. Without me, there is nothing but darkness." The children shifted slightly, imagining it. "The stars," the grandmother said, heard these words, but they said nothing. "Why?" one of the older children asked. The grandmother smiled faintly. "Because not every truth needs to be shouted, and not every pride needs to be challenged immediately." She paused, letting the thought settle. The stars continued to shine, quietly, patiently. But they noticed something. The grandmother leaned slightly forward. The moon had begun to forget something very important. "What?" the children asked together. "That light is not meant to stand alone." "Small star named Sally among all the stars," the grandmother continued. "There was one very small one, so small that many nights you would not even notice her unless you looked very carefully. Her name was Sally," the youngest child whispered. "Sally." The grandmother nodded. "Yes, Sally. She was not bright like the others. She did not stretch across the sky or catch the eye of those below. But she was kind." The grandmother's voice softened. "Sally spent her nights watching the earth. She watched travelers walking long roads under the sky, hoping for light to guide them. She watched children who were afraid of the dark, holding tightly to their blankets. She watched lonely people sitting outside their homes, looking up, wishing for comfort." Sally flickered softly as she watched. "I wish I could shine more," she would whisper. But no matter how hard she tried, her light remained small, and the children grew quiet. They understood that feeling, the moon's growing pride. But the moon, the grandmother continued, did not see Sally. It did not see the small stars at all anymore. It only saw itself, night after night. Its voice grew louder. "I shine the brightest," it would say. "I am the reason the night is beautiful." The grandmother shook her head gently, and with every word. Its pride grew until one night it made a decision. The fire crackled. The children leaned even closer. The decision. The moon looked across the sky, the grandmother said, and it was not satisfied. "This is not enough," it thought. "I must shine even brighter, so that no one will ever forget me." The grandmother raised her hand slowly, as if gathering something invisible. So the moon began to pull in all its light, every bit of it brighter and brighter. The children's eyes widened. "The sky began to change," she said. "The stars started to fade under the moon's overwhelming glow, one by one. They disappeared from sight. Even Sally, the youngest child, frowned. She disappeared too? The grandmother nodded. Coma. Yes, for the first time. Sally could no longer be seen at all, a sky out of balance. At first, the grandmother continued, the moon felt powerful. The sky was filled with its light alone. Now they will all see me, it said proudly. But something was wrong. She paused. The fire popped softly. The night was no longer balanced. The shadows looked strange. The air felt heavy. The quiet was no longer peaceful. It was uneasy. When something takes more than its share, the grandmother said, it disturbs the harmony of everything around it. The children nodded slowly. Even if they didn't fully understand, they felt it. A warning unheard. Some of the older stars, she continued, tried to shimmer a warning, but the moon was too focused on itself, too full of its own brightness. It did not listen. And that, the grandmother said gently, is how many mistakes begin, not with bad intentions, but with closed ears. Back at the fire, the grandmother paused. The firelight flickered across the children's faces. They were completely still now. What happened next? One whispered. The grandmother looked up at the moon again. Her eyes softened. What happens next, she said quietly, is what happens when pride goes too far. She leaned closer, and it is something the sky itself has never forgotten. The wind passed softly through the tree. The night deepened, and the story was just beginning. The fire had burned lower now. Its flames no longer danced wildly, but glowed steadily soft. Patient and watchful, the children had moved even closer to the grandmother, their small bodies leaning toward her as though the story itself was pulling them in. Above them, the night sky stretched wide and deep. The moon still hung there, calm, quiet, glowing, but now, after everything they had heard, it no longer felt the same. The grandmother lifted her eyes toward it. Listen carefully, she said, her voice softer now, almost like the wind itself. This is the part the night does not forget. The night that changed everything. After the moon gathered all its light, she continued, the sky became something it had never been before. Too bright, too still, too quiet. The stars were gone from sight, she said. Not because they had left, but because the moon had taken all the attention, all the space, all the light. The children frowned. That's not fair, one of them murmured. The grandmother nodded slowly. No, she said. It was not up in the sky. The moon stretched its glow farther than ever before. I am everything the night needs, it said proudly. But something strange was happening. Something the moon did not expect. The first flicker. The grandmother raised her hand slightly, her fingers trembling just enough to catch the firelight. At first, she said, it was very small, so small that even the moon almost didn't notice. Its light flickered just once, like a candle touched by a passing breeze. The children held their breath, but the moon ignored it. She continued, it is nothing, it thought. I am too strong for anything to happen to me. And so it continued to shine. Brighter, stronger, more demanding than before. The light begins to struggle. But when something is pushed beyond its balance, the grandmother said, it begins to weaken. Even if it looks strong on the outside, the flicker came again, this time. Longer, the edges of the moon's glow trembled. Its light was no longer steady. Still, she said. The moon refused to listen. It pulled harder, forced itself brighter. Tried to prove that nothing was wrong. The grandmother looked at the children one by one. Have you ever tried to hide when something is wrong? She asked. A few of them nodded slowly. Yes, she said gently. That is what the moon was doing. The moment it happened, the fire cracked sharply. The children jumped slightly. The grandmother leaned forward, her voice now barely above a whisper. And then she paused. The silence stretched. It happened. The moon's light broke, not slowly, not gently, but all at once. It flickered violently, she said. It dimmed. Her voice dropped even lower, and then she clapped softly. Gone. The children froze. No one spoke. Fear on the earth. Down below, the world changed. Travelers stopped in their tracks. The paths they knew disappeared into shadow. Children woke from their sleep, confused and afraid. Animals moved cautiously, their instincts unsettled. The wind sounded louder, the grandmother said. The trees seemed taller. The shadows stretched longer than they should. One of the children hugged their knees. It must have been scary, they whispered. The grandmother nodded. Yes, she said softly. It was the moon's realization. High above, where the moon once ruled the night, there was now only silence. The moon floated in darkness, glow, gone. Its presence, barely visible. What happened? Ida asked. But no answer came. For the first time, the moon could not see the world below. It could not feel its power. It could not recognize itself. The grandmother's voice softened deeply. For the first time, the moon was afraid. A quiet regret. The moon drifted in the empty sky. It remembered its words. I am the ruler of the night. I shine the brightest. I am enough on my own. Now those words felt hollow. Small.
Untrue.
I did not understand, the moon whispered. I thought being the brightest meant being the greatest, but there was no one to hear it, no one to answer, because when pride pushes others away, it often leaves you alone when you need them most. A small light in the distance, far away, deep in the darkness, something flickered, very faint, so faint that it could easily be missed. But it was there. Sally, the grandmother said. The children's faces lifted slightly. She was still there? Yes, the grandmother replied. Small, but still there. Celia's light trembled weakly. She had almost nothing left. The long shadow of the moon's pride had dimmed her for too long, but she could see the darkness. She could feel the fear, and she made a choice. The choice to shine. I may be small, Kelly whispered, but I can still try. The grandmother leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying quiet strength. So Sally did something very brave. She began to shine, not brightly, not powerfully, but steadily, with everything she had left. Her light was small, but it was real, the first spark of change. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The darkness was still deep, the fear still heavy, but then another star noticed. It saw Sally's light. Tiny, flickering, but determined. And it made a choice too. It began to shine. Then another star, and another, and another. The grandmother smiled softly. You see, she said, light has a way of calling to light. Back at the fire beside them glowed warmer now. The children leaned closer still, their eyes reflecting both the fire and the story unfolding in their minds. So the stars came back? One asked quietly. The grandmother nodded. Yes, she said, but not in the way they were before. She looked up at the sky again. This time, they were not competing, they were helping. A lesson begins. The grandmother's voice softened again, and as the stars began to shine together, she paused. The darkness began to listen. The children waited. No one moved. No one spoke. The night had grown deeper now. Even the fire seemed calmer, as if it too was listening closely to what was about to be revealed. The children sat in silence around the grandmother. None of them moved. Even the smallest sound, the crackle of wood, the rustle of leaves, felt like it belonged inside the story now. The grandmother looked up at the sky, and for a long moment she said nothing. Then she spoke. This, she said softly, is what the night remembers most. In the darkness, she continued, something beautiful began to happen. Telly's lights, small, trembling, almost fragile, grew just a little stronger. Not much, just enough to be seen. And in that moment, another star answered her. Then another, and another. The sky, which had felt empty and broken, began to change.
Slowly, gently.
Like a wound beginning to heal. The stars did not rush, the grandmother said. They did not compete. They did not try to be the brightest. They simply
returned.
One by one, points of light began to appear across the sky. Not overwhelming, not loud, but steady, like whispers becoming a song. The darkness did not disappear all at once. Instead, it stepped back, as if it was no longer in charge. The children watched the grandmother closely. "And Sally?" one of them asked. The grandmother smiled softly. She was still there, she said, small but shining with courage. She did not become the brightest star. She became the first one who dared to shine again. Far above, the moon remained still. It had not yet returned its light. It floated in the sky like a forgotten memory, watching, listening, learning. The grandmother's voice lowered, and for the first time, she said, "The moon understood something it had never understood before." Silence stretched. Not even the fire cracked. It was not the center of the night. The children blinked slowly. It was part of it. The moon remembered everything. How it had shone too brightly. How it had taken more than its share. How it had believed that being alone at the top meant being powerful. But now, surrounded by returning stars, it saw the truth. "I was wrong," the moon whispered into the quiet sky. "I did not shine, I overshadowed." There was no anger in the sky, only balance returning. Then something changed. Slowly, very slowly, a soft glow returned to the moon. Not harsh, not blinding, but gentle, like someone learning humility for the first time. The grandmother nodded slightly. "And so," she said, "the moon began to remember what it had forgotten. It was not meant to replace the stars. It was meant to move with them, to share the night, to guide without taking everything away." Now the sky was different. The stars were no longer hidden. The moon was no longer alone. And Sally, still small, still gentle, but no longer unseen. The grandmother's voice softened with warmth. "Do you see?" she asked the children. "Even the smallest light matters." The children nodded quietly. They were watching the sky differently now, not just as something above them, but something alive, something listening. Down below, the world changed again. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but peacefully. Travelers found their paths again. Children slept without fear. The wind softened. The shadows became gentle once more. It was not just the sky that healed, the grandmother said. It was everything that depended on it. The moon now rose differently. No longer proud, no longer loud, but calm. It did not try to outshine the stars. It moved with them, and together, they made the night whole again. The grandmother looked at the children. "And that," she said softly, "is how the moon learned humility." The fire had grown low. Only glowing embers remained, painting soft light across the children's faces. They were quiet, deep in thought. One of them finally spoke. "So, the moon was not bad?" the child asked. The grandmother shook her head gently. "No," she said, "it was not bad. It was simply learning." She paused. "And sometimes, even the brightest things must be taught how to share their light." The grandmother slowly adjusted her headscarf and looked at the sky one last time. The moon was there again, soft, balanced, beautiful in its quiet way. "And that is why," she said, her voice now warm and soft like closing night, "the moon sometimes disappears." The children leaned closer. It is not gone," she continued. "It is remembering." A soft wind passed through the trees. The fire gave one final gentle crackle, and the world felt still. The grandmother smiled. "So whenever you see the night sky," she said, "remember this." She looked at each child one by one. Even the darkest night is only waiting for its lights to return. The children looked up, and for the first time, they did not just see the sky. They understood it. The end.